He was a lawyer who spent his career fighting for justice, but when he needed justice the most, it came too late, and the people he trusted most had already decided he would never leave that village alive. This is the true story of Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak, a husband, a father, a state counsel with the Akwa Ibom State Ministry of Justice, a man who believed that honesty and conversation could fix a broken marriage, and that belief, that simple, honest belief, is what got him unalived. Let us start from the beginning. Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak was 41 years old. He was a trained lawyer and a dedicated public servant who worked at the Akwa Ibom State Ministry of Justice in Uyu, the state capital. By every account, Godwin was a serious man. He went to the University of Calabar, studied law, and built himself a career that his family was proud of. He was not a loud person. He was not reckless. He was the kind of man who used words and law to solve problems, not violence. His wife, Barrister Ikoiwak, was also a lawyer. She was 36 years old and worked as a registrar at the Court of Appeal in Calabar, Cross River State. So, they were a professional couple, two lawyers, each working in a different city. Godwin was in Uyu, Barrister was in Calabar. They maintained their marriage across the distance. On the surface, it looked like a successful Nigerian family, two lawyers, careers, children at home. But underneath all of that, something was deeply wrong. And for years, Godwin had been ignoring the signs, or perhaps trying to ignore them. The troubling discoveries had been piling up slowly. First, Godwin had noticed something strange about his wife's children, the ones she presented to him as his own. Each time she said she was pregnant, he was kept away from her until after the delivery. Then she would simply hand him the baby and say, "This is your child." He never witnessed any of her pregnancies up close, never sat beside her in a hospital, never held her hand during labor. She always had a reason why he could not be there, and he always accepted it because he trusted his wife. But then there was the matter of the boy living in their house, a young one that Barrister had introduced as her younger brother. Godwin had accepted this, welcomed the boy into his home, and even helped to take care of him. But then quietly, Godwin began hearing things, disturbing things, things that suggested that this younger brother was not a sibling at all, that this boy was actually his wife's biological son, born from a relationship she had with a Catholic priest named Reverend Father Maurice Mbeki, a prominent clergyman, years before she married Godwin. Think about that for a moment. The boy was reportedly 14 years old when Godwin married Barrister in 2017. That boy had been living under Godwin's roof the entire time, and Godwin had no idea. He was raising a child that was not his while being told the child was his wife's sibling. But even that was not all. Godwin also heard that his wife had been involved with another man, a legal practitioner identified in court as Barrister C.I. Odo, a former employer of Barrister. That meant there were now multiple layers of betrayal stacking up in his mind. A secret son, a secret affair, and questions about whether his own children were really his. For a man like Godwin, a lawyer trained to deal in facts and evidence, these were not just feelings he could push aside. He needed answers. He decided the right thing to do was to approach his wife's family, to sit down with them, to talk, to get clarity. He reached out to his in-laws and told them about his concerns. He wanted to have a conversation. He wanted to know the truth about the paternity of his children. Before he left for that meeting, Godwin called his close friend and law school classmate, Barrister Sonny Anyanwu, who was in Abuja at the time. He told him where he was going. He explained the situation. That phone call, every word of it, was later admitted as a key exhibit in court. It was the last real conversation anyone outside that family would ever have with Godwin Ikoiwak. On January 19, 2022, Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak left his home in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, and drove towards his mother-in-law's house in Nung Udoe Itak in Ikono Local Government on the outskirts of Uyo. He was going to a family meeting. He was going to settle a dispute the proper way, through conversation. He had no bodyguard, no protection. He had no reason to think he needed any. What he didn't know was that the people waiting for him at that house had already decided how this meeting would end. He was walking into a trap dressed up as a family discussion, and by the time the sun rose the next morning, Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak would be dead. On the morning of January 20, 2022, Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak did not appear in court. He was a practicing lawyer with active cases. Missing court without notice was not something he did. His colleagues noticed his absence right away. One of them made an excuse to the judge, saying that Godwin was feeling unwell. After the session ended, that same colleague picked up his phone and called Godwin to check on him. The phone was answered, but it was not Godwin's voice on the other end. It was his wife, Abasiese Abanga. She told Godwin's colleague calmly and simply that her husband was sick. She did not say where he was. She did not say anything alarming, just, "He is sick, do not worry." What his colleague did not know, what nobody outside that family knew at that moment, was that Godwin Ecoywak was already dead. His body was already lying in the mortuary of St. Luke's Hospital, Anwa, in Uyo. And the woman on that phone, the woman saying he is sick, she had already begun putting together a plan to make sure nobody ever found out what really happened to him in that house in Nung Udoe Itak. Let us talk about what the evidence later revealed. Godwin had gone to his mother-in-law's house on January 19, 2022, a house occupied by Mrs. Margaret Patrick Umo, the mother-in-law, and her daughter, Owoidoho Patrick Umo, the sister-in-law. These were the people waiting for him. These were the people who had called him to that family meeting. And while the exact details of what happened inside that house that night were pieced together through forensic evidence and confessional statements, what the court established is this. Godwin Ikoiwak was tied up, beaten, and then forced to swallow a toxic insecticide called organophosphate, commonly known in local Nigerian communities as otapiapia. It is the same poison people use to fumigate their homes, and he was made to drink it while restrained, while helpless, while at the mercy of people who called themselves his family by marriage. The autopsy, conducted by Dr. Emeka Nwafo, a histopathologist, confirmed all of this. Godwin had died from organophosphate poisoning, but he also had injuries to his left eye socket, his neck, and his wrists. Those injuries told their own story. He had fought back, or he had been physically harmed before the poison finished its work. Either way, his final hours were not peaceful, they were brutal. Now, right here, I want to pause and ask you something important. Stop what you are doing for 1 second. In the comment section below, type the word justice, because this man went to a family meeting and never came home. Let us stand with his family in the comments. Type justice right now. And while you are there, I want to personally invite you to subscribe to this channel, Trem Crime Zone, if you have not done so yet. We cover real Nigerian and African true crime stories every week. Stories that the news mentions once and forgets about. Stories of ordinary people caught in extraordinary crimes. If you want to be part of a community that actually pays attention, actually discusses these cases, and actually cares, subscribe right now and turn on your notification bell. We are building something real here together. Now, back to the story. After Godwin passed on at his mother-in-law's house, the family faced a serious problem. If the truth came out that he had been poisoned at the home of his wife's mother, there would be immediate investigation. There would be questions nobody could answer. So instead of calling his family or the police, the plan was to move the body. Abasiese Abanga later admitted in court that she directed her sister, Udeme Patrick Umo, a police officer who is currently at large, to help transport Godwin's remains to St. Luke's Hospital Anwa in Uyo. There, she contacted Reverend Father Gabriel Ekon, the hospital administrator, and Dr. Imo Johnson, a medical doctor at the hospital. She told them the truth, that her husband had passed away at her mother's home, but she asked them to write in the death certificate that he had been treated at St. Luke's and died there from asthma attacks. And they did it. They opened a false hospital file. They created false medical records. They issued a death certificate that said Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak died from asthma complications at St. Luke's Hospital. A complete lie, signed and stamped by medical professionals who took an oath to serve the truth. The cover-up extended even further. Phone records that were later polled and presented in court revealed that on the day and night that Godwin was losing his life in that house, Abasiese Abanga was in constant communication with her mother, her sister, and Reverend Father Maurice Mbeke, the Catholic priest who was at the center of the original family secret. After Godwin's death was confirmed, Reverend Father Mbeke reportedly contacted Reverend Father Gabriel Ekon at St. Luke's Hospital to arrange the false admission and documentation. Multiple phone calls, multiple people, a network of people coordinating in real time while a man, a husband, a father, a lawyer lay dying in a village house. Meanwhile, Abasiese went to work in Calabar the next morning as if nothing had happened. Her colleagues at the Court of Appeal saw her and had no idea she had just lost her husband because she did not tell them. She did not call Godwin's elderly parents who lived in the same city. She did not call his family. She controlled all the information. She decided what people would know and when they would know it. The first thing she did after his death was confirmed, she called Reverend Father Mbeke. The second thing she did, she applied for and received approval to collect her husband's government benefits before he was even buried. When Abasiese Abanga finally contacted Godwin's family, she told them a carefully prepared story. She said she had been in Port Harcourt when she received a call from Godwin saying he was having an asthma attack. She said she instructed him to go to a hospital while she rushed back. She said she found his car parked at St. Luke's Hospital, keys still in the ignition. She said he had already passed before she arrived. It sounded believable. Godwin did have a history of asthma. His wife knew that. She used it. But then came the part that started to unravel everything. Abasiese Abanga refused to give Godwin's family access to his remains. She held on to the mortuary receipt, the document his family needed to see his body. For an entire week after his death, she denied them that access. No family should have to beg to see their own son, but that is what happened, 1 full week. When the family finally gained access, what Godwin's elder brother saw stopped him cold. There was a deep cut above Godwin's left eye. His lips showed burn marks, and when the elder brother looked more carefully at the wrists and ankles, there were marks, clear marks that showed his hands and legs had been bound. The mortician at the hospital confirmed something else that was deeply troubling. When Godwin's body was brought in, he was already dead. The mortician had to use force to push the embalming fluid into the body, a procedure that is only necessary when someone has been deceased for a significant period of time. Meaning Godwin had not been rushed to the hospital while still alive. He had been brought there already gone, hours later as part of the cover-up. The family immediately demanded an autopsy, a full autopsy with toxicology screening, and they were right to demand it. Before I continue, I need you to do something. Drop a comment right now and tell me, what would you have done if you were in Godwin's family and you saw those marks on his body? Would you have trusted the police or taken matters into your own hands? Tell me below. I genuinely want to know. On March 15, 2022, the pathologist Dr. Emeka Nwafo presented the autopsy results. In the room that day were the Ikwewak family, police officers, and Abasiese Abanga's legal team, but Abasiese Abanga herself was not there. She sent word that she was not interested in the results. The results were clear and devastating. Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak did not die from asthma. He had been poisoned with organophosphate, the common insecticide known as otapiapia. His body also showed physical trauma, the injuries to his left eye, neck, and wrists. The forensic evidence showed that he had been restrained, with his hands bound behind his back in a way that put severe pressure on his rib cage. The positioning of his arms during restraint would have caused immense pain on its own, even before the poison took effect. The picture was complete and horrifying. Godwin Ikoiwak went to a family meeting. He had been physically restrained, he had been beaten, and then he had been made to swallow poison.
and the people who did that to him had spent the days after his death moving his body, falsifying documents, and calling on people in positions of religious and medical authority to help them hide what they had done. The investigation moved forward quickly after the autopsy. Police pulled phone records for everyone connected to the case. The records showed a pattern of constant communication between Abasia Siabanga, her mother, her sister, and Reverend Father Mbeke on the night Godwin was at that house. Those calls told a story on their own, even without a confession. Investigators from the Department of State Services, the DSS, also got involved. They identified a broader conspiracy. Multiple people played different roles, some in the actual crime, others in the cover-up. And what emerged from all the evidence combined was a picture of something that had been planned, not a crime of passion. This was organized, this was deliberate. Meanwhile, Abasia Siabanga continued making moves that raised eyebrows. Two unknown men, said to be her brothers, reportedly entered Godwin's house and removed his personal belongings. They told the gateman they were following the deceased's instructions from a man who was already dead. She also wrote a petition to the police criminal headquarters in Abuja against every member of Godwin's family, including his 93-year-old father and 62-year-old mother, claiming they were threatening her life. A man was gone, and the woman who had coordinated every part of his death and its cover-up was writing petitions to the police. The arrests eventually came. In a targeted operation, the Akwa Ibom State government moved against the suspects one by one. By 2022, Abasia Siabanga Ikoiwak was formally arrested and charged. Her mother, Mrs. Margaret Patrick Umo, her sister, Owowido Patrick Umo, Reverend Father Gabriel Ekong from St. Luke's Hospital, and Dr. Imo Johnson. 6 people total standing trial for the ending of Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak and the conspiracy that followed. The case had its first court appearance, and the community of Akwa Ibom, and indeed much of Nigeria, was watching.
The trial of the 6 defendants in the murder of Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak stretched across more than 2 years. During that time, the prosecutions team, led by the Director of Public Prosecutions in Akwa Ibom State, Barrister Joseph Umoren, called 18 witnesses and presented 51 exhibits to the court. Among those exhibits was something extremely powerful: the audio recording of Godwin's last phone call with his friend, Barrister Sonny Anyawu. The recording captured Godwin in his own voice, saying he was heading to his wife's family home in Ikono Local Government Area to report the paternity dispute about his children. The voice of a man who did not know he was speaking his last words to a friend. The prosecution's case was strong. The autopsy results, the phone records, the forensic evidence of restraint and physical harm, the false death certificate, the testimony of the mortician, the testimony of Godwin's elder brother, the confession that Abasia Siabanga herself gave to the DSS, in which she admitted she had directed her sister to move the body and asked Dr. Johnson to issue a false certificate. The defense tried to punch holes in all of it. Abasia Siabanga took the stand and maintained she had nothing to do with her husband's death. She said they had no serious quarrels. She insisted she was not there when he passed away. She even claimed that Godwin's family had excluded her name from the burial program, listing him as a bachelor without children as a way to take his properties. There were tears, there were emotional statements, but the evidence stood firm. On June 30th, 2025, Justice Basi Nunkanang of Akwa Ibom State High Court delivered judgment. It lasted over 3 hours. 5 of the 6 defendants were convicted. One, Dr. Isaac Njoku, was acquitted of all charges due to insufficient evidence against him specifically. Here is how the sentences fell. Abasia Siabanga Ikoiwak, the wife, was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and accessory after the fact of murder. She was acquitted of the murder charge itself. Her sentence, 2 years imprisonment counting from February 18, 2022, the date of her initial arrest. That meant she had already served her sentence by the time judgment was delivered. She walked out of court a free woman. Mrs. Margaret Patrick Umo, the mother-in-law, was convicted of murder and conspiracy, sentenced to 10 years imprisonment counting from May 21, 2022. Owoidoho Patrick Umo, the sister-in-law, was convicted of murder and conspiracy, sentenced to 10 years imprisonment counting from May 21, 2022. Dr. Imoho Johnson,
The medical doctor who issued the false death certificate was convicted and sentenced to 2 years imprisonment, counting from June 25, 2025. Reverend Father Gabriel Ekong, the hospital administrator who set up the false records, was convicted and sentenced to 4 years imprisonment, counting from June 25, 2025. Justice Nkanang explained his reduced sentences by noting that all the defendants were first-time offenders. He cited the advanced age of the mother-in-law. He cited the fact that the sister-in-law had a young baby at the time of the crime. The reaction from Godwin's family and friends was immediate and raw. Barrister Sani Anyau, the same man who took Godwin's last phone call, who flew from Abuja to Uyo to testify, who spent years fighting for his friend, stood outside the courtroom and said what everyone was feeling. He said the judgment was a miscarriage of justice. He said he would not have made the trip from Abuja had he known this would be the outcome. He pointed out that the woman who coordinated the entire crime, who organized the cover-up, who moved the body, who made the phone calls, who applied for government benefits before her husband was buried, was technically already served her time. She was free. He also raised the question that everyone was asking: where was Reverend Father Maurice Mbeke in all of this? Reverend Father Maurice Mbeke, the Catholic priest who allegedly fathered Abasi Asiabanga's secret son, the man whose name appeared in phone records as one of the first people Abasi Asiabanga called after Godwin's death, the man who reportedly contacted Reverend Father Gabriel Ekong to organize the hospital cover-up. Reverend Father Mbeke was never charged, he was never arrested, he walked through this entire case untouched. The Akwa Ibom State government did not let the verdict go without challenge. A notice of appeal has been filed. The family and the state are fighting to have the case reviewed at a higher court, with the hope that more appropriate sentences will be handed down and that the full truth of who else was involved will eventually come to light.
Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak was 41 years old. He was a lawyer who spent his working life in service of the state. He was a father. He was a friend who made one last phone call before entering a house he would never leave. He went to that meeting because he believed in doing things the right way. He believed in family. He believed in conversation. And that belief cost him everything. What happened to Godwin is not just a crime story. It is a warning that we all need to hear. The first lesson: trust is not the same as safety. Godwin trusted that because he was going to family, people he was connected to by marriage and by years of relationship, he would be safe. But trust without discernment can be dangerous. The people waiting for him in that house were not there to have a conversation. They were there with a plan. Always tell someone where you are going. Always share your location with a trusted person outside the situation. Godwin told Barrister Sonny Anyanwu where he was going, and that phone call became the most important piece of evidence in this entire case. That simple act of telling a friend may not have saved his life, but it is what gave his family the tools to fight for justice. The second lesson: silence after a death is a red flag. When Abasi Etonsa Banga did not inform Godwin's parents of his death, when she held on to the mortuary receipt for a week, when she went to work in Calabar the next day as if nothing had happened, when she immediately applied for his government benefits, all of these were signals that something was deeply wrong. When a death is surrounded by silence and strange behavior from those closest to the deceased, do not accept the official story without questions. Push for an autopsy. Push for transparency. The third lesson: the cover-up is part of the crime. In this case, the cover-up involved medical professionals, a church administrator, and a police officer. That should disturb all of us. People in positions of public trust, doctors, priests, chose to protect criminals instead of honoring the truth. Their involvement shows us that institutions are only as trustworthy as the individuals within them. The fourth lesson: justice delayed and justice reduced are both forms of injustice. The fact that the woman at the center of this conspiracy served 2 years and walked free while the case was still in the public eye is something the family and the entire country must continue to challenge. An appeal has been filed. That appeal matters. Every voice that calls for a review of this judgment matters.
Justice is not just about conviction, it is about a sentence that reflects the gravity of what was done to Godwin. Godwin's father, who had lived to see his son unalived and the trial begin, did not live to see the verdict. He passed away in November 2024, reportedly broken by grief. His friend, Sonny Anyau, said he died of heartbreak. A father who outlived his son but could not survive the pain of watching the process drag on for years. This story is not over. The appeal is live, the case is ongoing at a higher level, and Reverend Father Mbeke has still not been brought before any court to answer for his alleged role in what happened. The Ikoiwak family is still waiting. Barrister Sonny Anyau is still speaking, and Godwin's audio, that audio recording of his last phone call played in open court, is still the loudest piece of evidence in a case that Nigeria must not forget. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you think the sentences were fair? Do you think the right people have been charged? Should Reverend Father Mbeke face prosecution? Tell me everything in the comments below. I read every single comment. If this story moved you, if you feel like Godwin Ikoiwak deserves to be remembered and his case deserves to be heard, please share this video. Share it with one person right now. It takes 5 seconds and it keeps this conversation alive. And if you are not yet subscribed to Trem Crime Zone, this is your moment. We tell the true stories that matter: Nigerian cases, African cases, real people, real consequences. Every week we bring you a new story. Subscribe now, turn on your bell, and join a community of people who believe that these stories deserve to be told and that the victims deserve to be remembered. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.